Hello and welcome to a quick little review of Batman Arkham Asylum. This was my second This was my second playthrough of the game, but my first playthrough was ages ago, so it was essentially fresh. But I have to say, it was rather good. Perhaps better the second time than the first time, because the first time I was sort of rushing it a bit. The second time I did all of the riddles, and that provided a nice layer of fun. Still didn't do the challenges though. Challenges not for me. I'm not good enough for such things. But anyway, Rocksteady Idios, published by Warner Brothers, managed to perform a small miracle in that they took superhero games and beat 'em up games and managed to make them respectable, because those two things have been a joke for a good long while now, due to most of them being terrible. In fact, Batman Arkham Asylum currently holds a Guinness World Record for being the most critically acclaimed superhero game there is, so that's always good. Basically, the mechanics were good and solid. The fighting thing, it's very fluid. It's basically just keep spamming left click to see Batman do some cool things. Press right click to counter, which I consistently fucked up on, but it makes him do cooler things if you do it right. And then there's the whole dodging thing, the batarang thing, throwing thing. It's all quite good and fluid and nice, and it's very well done, as opposed to some beat-em-up games, which are not very well done. And as for the superhero thing, what Rocksteady have done here is they've capitalized on the newfound interest Batman has received due to the Christopher Nolan films, but they've also been very faithful to the comics continuity and sort of shown that off to a lot more people, which is very nifty. In particular, the plot itself is a very loose adaptation of the comic Batman Arkham Asylum Serious House on Serious Earth, which I highly recommend. It's got some excellent painting in it, far more beautiful than I could ever do. And the plot of that comic is basically Batman is trapped in Arkham Asylum for a night with all of his greatest villains, though the comic, there's not much action in it. In this game, there's a lot of action, there's a lot of goons. In the comic, there's no goons, there's just the villains, and there's pretty much no action either. It's more of a psychological horror. It's sort of Batman trying to fight off going completely snooker-loopy. There is one fight with Killer Croc, which is nothing like the fight with Killer Croc in the game, but other than that, I think it's Batman just sort of wandering around in a daze. I say I think, I've read it. It's Batman wandering around in a daze while all of the other villains act creepy. It's also somewhat based on The Killing Joke, which is Alan Moore's very famous Joker comic. If you've not read that, pick it up. It's quite short, so it's not a big time investment either way. But again, another very good one, and that is Joker basically trying to drive Jim Gordon crazy, and he does that by, spoilers, putting a bullet through his daughter's spine, kidnapping Jim Gordon, having his goons rape him, then tie him to a roller coaster cart, send him on a roller coaster with pictures of his crippled, naked daughter spread all over the inside walls of the funhouse. And that's not a fun time for Jim Gordon, but then Batman shows up and does some stuff, and then Joker tries to say, "Oh, you're crazy too, Batman," but then Batman's like, "Huh, shut up, ho," and then it's very good. It's very good. Anyway, let's look at the plot of this particular game. We are in Arkham Asylum, led by Warden Quincy Sharp. Penny Young, it turns out, has been trying to create this substance called venom, which makes its users very, very strong, and she's doing this so that patients can withstand the treatment they are currently giving at Arkham, which begs the question, what in the blue hell is the treatment they're giving, because that's quite horrific. And of course Joker, doing his jokery thing, hijacks the project and starts using it to create super powerful henchmen of doom, which sounds like a nice, reasonable, chaotic plan for Joker, though I have to wonder how he plans on keeping them in control. But then again, I don't know how he keeps his current crew in control. He is such a horrible boss, I don't know why anyone would have the morale needed to work for him. I mean, in real life, you don't cross evil leaders because they have an army that will sort you out. But how would Joker ever hold the loyalties of an army? He's horrible to all of them. They should all just kick his face in. And of course, at the end, Joker uses the Titan on himself and becomes this weird, grotesque, silly-looking creature, complete with a lot of his muscle tissue showing, loads of his skin is ripped off, his spine just coming right out of his back, his ribs are visible, all of that. I remember thinking the first time round that there's no way anyone can do that to themselves and there not be horrible, horrible consequences. But then I saw the trailers for Batman Arkham City and found that, wow, my god, Rocksteady thinks so too. What a refreshing sort of dose of consequences there, because normally in this sort of comic continuity you can do whatever you want and get away with it. I mean, actually the Joker, he can pretty much get away with anything. He's died a lot of times over the course of the comic continuities. He always comes back, it's fine. But just the fact that he's very sick in the second game, and that's not a spoiler, we know that pretty much straight away, very sick in Batman Arkham City after having done this Titan thing to himself. That was rather refreshing. So it's just Batman trapped in the asylum trying to stop Bloker's plan while more villains go about their silly business. Scarecrow, of course, being the coolest diversion. A lot of people like the Scarecrow scenes, and I do too. It's a nice little bit of platforming that doesn't seem too shoehorned in. It's like it's a genre change, but it's not too jarring. That's very good. And the design of Scarecrow himself is just awesome in this game. Syringe hands, man. That's what it's all about. Syringe hands. Cillian Murphy from Batman Begins, you can learn from this man. Not just put a little sack over your head. Get yourself some syringe hands. Having said that, the story is not perfect after all. It's not devoid of some fantastic cheese. Top two contenders, which are I Think He's Crazy by Penny Young, when speaking on Joker, who is a frequent inhabitant of an insane asylum. So yeah, Doc, he just might be crazy. Good observation. And then, I say top two contenders. That one just took me a lot, but even that can't compare to No! By Batman, as he jumps in front of the dart shot Jim Gordon. It wasn't even no, it was more of a no! It was pretty bad. Pretty cheese-tastic. And then, Batman's subsequent ability to be able to fight off the effects of the Titan just because he's Batman and he's strong-willed is a bit of a stretch of disbelief. I mean, the fact that he can deal with the fear gas so well is fine in that fear gas is a somewhat psychological-based drug, but Titan, that should just turn him into a monster. He's able to get away with too much there. It sort of really drives home that Batman can do whatever we want when we decide we need him to. They could have at least shown him transforming a bit before he yammed that antidote into himself, so that would have at least shown that he's not just stupidly immune to absolutely everything. And the bosses as well, probably the least great part of the game. Bane in particular is a massive disappointment for me because Bane is supposed to be very, very intelligent. I know he's all big and muscular due to the venom he's got in him, but he is supposed to be very smart, and that's how he was pretty much able to break Batman's back in the comics, because he was clever. He didn't just dumb muscle his way to Batman. He was clever about things, managed to get the drop on him, broke the back. I mean, we've seen that Batman can handle basically infinite amounts of dumb muscle in this game. So the fact that Bane was also dumb muscle, who's just all, I will break you, Batman, by charging at the wall, smacking my head, and then doing it again and again and again and again without any form of pattern recognition, is just somewhat disappointment. Harley Quinn, that was pretty much to be expected. She doesn't have any superpowers. She wouldn't really make a good boss herself, so we just had to beat up some goons. The electro floor mechanic and the grabbing the gun from the case mechanic at least added something new to that. Poison Ivy was a reasonable boss, if not annoying and a bit too long. And her emerge from her pod to laugh was again a bit of a lack of pattern recognition there, Pamela. Shouldn't emerge from the pod because that's the only time when I can hurt you, you fool. And then the joke himself, that's just you beating up loads of goons while he poses in front of a camera, so You know. Killer Croc, actually the best utilization of the character when it comes to bosses. It's a very divisive boss for a lot of people. A lot of people think it's really boring. A lot of people think it's scary. I think it's neither, because I'm crazy like that. I just think it was a good use of his character for the time, because the Killer Croc scene in Arkham is pumped up on tranquilizers. They do that to him whenever they want to move him around, and he's also got that electroshock collar. So the fact that he's hunting you slowly and quite slow and sluggish about it all, and can then be taken down with the collar, that at least fits. They haven't had to completely deform his character, Bane, to make that a thing that happens. You know? But then again, I suppose the unrealistic aspect of that is the fact that we have an incredibly insane, incredibly dangerous patient here. Let's lock him up in a labyrinthian sewer system that is the absolute perfect environment for him to be a predator in. We're Arkham Asylum. Anyway, the Riddler's riddles, a rather good distraction, side quest thingy. They're a bit overwhelming at first, you know, when that Riddler screen first comes up. It's like, destroy the Joker teeth, find the trophies, solve the riddles, find the maps, do this, do that, hoo, ha, hippy deeby ha. And it's like, whoa, Jesus, hell, what is going on? But once you get past that and sort of get used to it, get into the swing of solving riddles, which are basically just solve the pun, which I'm a fan of, then it gets to be good. The question mark in the sewers, the puzzle has many sides, but only some of them are visible. That was the hardest one for me. It turned out to not be that cheap. There was just a platform I wasn't shimmying to, which is where the dot was. But still, it took me feckin' ages to find. And that's always the problem with this sort of riddle-based, side-based thing, is that invariably the game will end with a whimper rather than with a bang, because it's very unlikely that we'll solve all the riddles before we fight Joker. So what ends up happening is we fight Joker, we take off on the plane, and then we find ourselves back in the island, completely empty, which itself is quite creepy by the way. And we just sort of wander around looking for the trophies and riddles for a couple more hours, and then we sort of awkwardly turn the game off. But can't blame Arkham Asylum for that. That's just a general side quest thing in general. And anyway, that sort of sums up my thoughts. It was very enjoyable. I would highly recommend giving it a go. So, thank you for listening to my idiotic rambling, and I will see you later. Brr.